Thank you very much for coming in. Can I start with Virginia Giuffre's death and the comments that you made about that? You said, when lies catch up with you, there's no way out. Do you think Virginia Giuffre killed herself?
Good question. Well, we have not seen a body yet. This is the weird thing, right? Normally you would see the body on a stretcher, like something, but we haven't seen anything yet. And the original, the release was NBC, which is also, I thought was kind of bizarre. That was the first person. Did she kill herself? I wrote that post because there had been like a lot of stuff obviously going on in that month before her death with that whole 4 Days to Live story, which as it got dissected, it wasn't a bad crash. No one was injured. What really was going on with Virginia Giuffre, right?
Her family put the statement out to say that she'd taken her own life. It doesn't seem that it's in her family's interests to lie about that or to make that up.
Who knows, really? Look, she definitely, things were catching up with her. The lies were catching up. She was sort of finally crumbling, and I feel like at that point she was no good to the lawyers anymore. The cash cow of Virginia Giuffre being able to sue so many people, that was gone.
You call them lies. I mean, one of the things that you claim is that the famous picture of Prince Andrew, Virginia Giuffre, Ghislaine Maxwell.
That's what I want to concentrate on.
Is one of those lies. You say that's a faked picture.
There's nothing real about that picture. Now, when that picture first appeared, actually, the papers that wrote about it, they got her height wrong. They said she was 5'7". She's actually 5'3" on Wikipedia. The fact is, which I don't know if I even mentioned that last week, but we have phone recordings of a conversation. I have hours of tape, which the FBI has, which I'm waiting for Pam Bondi and Kash Patel to release, of Virginia Giuffre in phone recordings saying nothing happened with Andrew.
To who?
To this guy, George, and Maria Farmer.
Why don't you put that out there if you have it?
I just had George on the phone just now before coming in here. So, well, the FBI have got it. So we're basically giving them another week or two to see if they're going to release it. And if they don't, we will release it.
Fine.
But he's just worried legally. Basically, his best friend, whose idea it was to record, died last summer.
Right.
Advar.
The problem is, part of your argument is this woman is very traumatized, has had a really tough life.
She basically was saved from Jeffrey Epstein, to be honest. Her life was so bad. I don't think he was the catalyst that made it worse. He actually put her into rehab.
But say you have tapes of
Virginia Giuffre, phone recordings, saying nothing happened to Andrew.
Right. Let's come back to this photo.
Yeah. And that is one of the reasons I've known about that for over 2 years. That is why I've been able to be so vocal.
I want to come back to that, but can I come just on the photo? Prince Andrew was obviously asked about this by Emily Maitlis, asked about that picture. He told Emily Maitlis, that is a picture of me. It is definitely me. You say it's not definitely him.
No, but he knows the story. Now, he knew it was a photo of a photo of a photo. So when he did that interview, I hadn't even started looking into this stuff. So he just... Look, you look at that picture and you're like, looks like him, but it's basically not his body. So that is Jeffrey Epstein's body.
But it is his head. You say it's
with
a sort
his
of collage.
Head,
right.
But the head, I've got an example of how the collage was done. His head, but if you look at it, it's it looks slightly, the scale is a little wrong.
Right.
That head looks you have to have a really trained eye to see this stuff.
Well, there's a forensic photography experts have looked at that photo and says it's not been doctored. It is a real picture.
Well, the ones I'm in touch with, I have a lot of forensic experts that all say it is.
So why hasn't someone gone and found where the picture of his head was originally from? That was apparently cut and pasted.
It was in a private photo album. We've been looking. So the guy that basically says he's the one that cut the head out, it was from these private photo albums.
So where is that original picture that you say this came from, or his head came from?
Well, we've been trying to find it, but it was in a private photo album.
But that should be easy to find, not at least by him, wouldn't it? He would be very easily able to get that to
I've
you.
actually tried with some royal biographers that have been trying to find that particular head. The problem is you can't really find it because they've pixelated the eyes. So, like, if you actually try and find that image, you can't because the eyes have been changed. If you look at the eyes look weird.
You're saying it's a collage image
Yeah.
done before really the advent of serious AI technology, where this could have played a part. So relatively
It's
easily
basically
traceable.
the scale of that
you
room
can't
is
find it.
completely real. It's a real room. The scale is exact. The people have been inserted. The size of the bodies in that room. Literally, like, I wish the owner of the house would just be like, okay, guys, come on in and just see it, because it's a bit like when you meet an actor for the first time. You know, I lived in Hollywood, so it's like you have this perception of these actors being tall and hunky and stuff, and then you meet them in real life, you're like, oh my God, they're so short and they're little, and it's like the guy is up to my shoulder. That is sort of the experience that I had at Kinnerton Street.
This is the house that you went to, where the picture was
posed
taken.
as a buyer to get in.
And you say the measurements don't line up. It's impossible to get 3 people in there.
It's like I have videos of me actually measuring, and it corroborates with Ghislaine's old house manager of what measurement she has. And that banister is 60 centimetres, which is less than 2 laptops. And that side wall is 55, and his body comes out at about 15.
Yeah.
It just, you literally just can't fit them.
The problem is...
Doesn't matter what scale, it doesn't matter what angle, it's not...
Yeah.
No lens, they don't fit in the space. If you cut the space out on the ground, they do not fit.
But your...
doesn't matter the lens and all of that rubbish.
The difficulty of the argument that you're presenting is you don't know where the original picture's from, of his head. Could be found, but apparently can't be.
It was apparently in a private photo album, so who knows?
I mean, that should be something he could find, presumably, if he was keen to prove
No, it
his
was
innocence.
an album that was not... He did not give that album.
So just to take the sort of the Occam's razor principle, Prince Andrew is friends with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. He attended Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan apartment after Epstein had been found guilty of sexual abuse and paedophilia.
Yeah.
He spent 4 days at that apartment. He was clearly friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. He hung around with those two and young women who were brought to the various events. He went to the island. It seems like it's very hard to say that he wasn't there.
Look, I've always said in all these interviews I did, I was around that scene. I never saw underage girls. Like, they were like, I would have been at least 20 at that point, early 20s, and I definitely didn't see sort of 15 or 16-year-olds.
But there were underage girls. I mean, even if you didn't see them.
But I didn't see them.
Well, I think in one interview you suggested that Virginia Giuffre...
She was 17 when she met Ghislaine. She was not 15, like how
No.
she first lied. Her first time, what she pretended, 15, and actually, no, it turned out she was 17.
Sorry,
like,
just go
she's
back.
a liar.
You said that Virginia Giuffre had suggested, or at least you were saying about her, that she had watched or taken photos as a 12-year-old was raped. So there were young girls there.
She watched it?
You said that.
Yeah, she did. Well, I was...
So there were young girls.
I was talking to a girl, which I haven't met in real life, so I don't know if she's like one of these people that make stuff up, but she did say to me Virginia watched her being raped.
You say you were around this scene. In what way were you around it? You were presented as...
I was a socialite. I was like the socialite of London at the time.
So you were
I
young.
was out. I was going to all the glamorous events.
Yeah.
I was in the newspapers like pretty much on a daily basis back then.
Did you think that there was something pretty weird and seedy about older, very wealthy men hanging around with lots of very young, attractive women?
No, because I was a model, and that is what the scene is like. It's like you go to Saint-Tropez, if you've ever hung out in Saint-Tropez in the summer, that's what it's like. You know, you have these wealthy guys, and they'll have a nice yacht, and they'll have a lot of attractive people staying on the yacht, and a lot of them will be models, like the girls.
You stayed at Epstein's place in Manhattan.
He didn't look like any different to another rich guy that you would have with people around.
Although I wonder whether the difference for you was when you were at Epstein's place, you say you felt exceptionally uncomfortable and you felt like you were being watched.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, I do remember that. And maybe it was some sort of paranoia, but I remember I was staying at one of the apartments, and I was there for a while, but I then moved into my friend's apartment, who used to live right next to the Carlisle, who was actually a mutual friend of Ghislaine's as well.
But you were being taped.
I don't know. I didn't.
Well, there are
see
tapes
it.
existing of inside the house. That's what Kash Patel and the Attorney General of the United States have been lobbied to release.
Then that got me a bit paranoid when I did read that.
If that video were to be released, what might it show based on your experience of being in that house?
I don't know.
Wouldn't it show a lot of young women being
having
sex with or in sexual contact with older, richer guys? Presumably that's the point.
So when I was in an apartment, I wasn't in the house. So I was in an apartment on my own. So my video is not going to be very interesting.
But that must have gone on. I mean, of course that went on. That's the point, isn't it?
Right.
Surely.
What's
of having young, very attractive women knocking around an apartment with older, richer guys, they're going to have sex with them.
Well, the apartment situation, I think, was different because they were sort of like model flats. So... And there was no guys in the apartment. Like, I had my own apartment. There was no one in it with me.
Right.
But I think that was because I was a young girl in New York. Maybe I was about 19 or something. And I didn't know New York very well back then. So maybe I was just like a bit paranoid and scared being in a new city. So I ended up at my friend's place.
It's a bit, with respect, it's a bit naive though, isn't it? To think that's not what these rich older men are after with these young, beautiful women.
Yeah, it is naive. And, as being a model, obviously, like, I saw a lot of that because, the guys, they want you around because you're a model, and then it brings people in. So, I had no idea at the time, but model agencies would like be paid by restaurants or clubs to bring all the models. Because then that makes the guys come, right? So they want to go to
That makes the rich guys come.
Well,
the powerful guys
it
come.
makes them want
Prince
to
Andrew.
go to that club. Prince Andrew's not a club guy. He's never
He was
even
in
had,
Tramp.
He's never had alcohol. He was not at Tramp with Virginia Giuffre.
But he went to
that
Tramp. She was a member there.
She would not have. She is a Tramp. She would have got into Tramp, but she wouldn't have got in. You can't wear that clothing to Tramp. You cannot now, maybe because the rules are different. It's been sold, but back when Johnny Gold had Tramp, you could not look like a tramp.
Why are you so supportive of Prince Andrew as his ex-girlfriend? You must be the most supportive ex-girlfriend in history.
Right, and it's not really him. For me, it's like about the Queen being screwed over. It's about this country being screwed over.
But by
it's
whom?
about
By what?
whoever set him up, And
he chose to go himself to see Jeffrey Epstein and be friends with Jeffrey Epstein.
No, but I'm saying who set him up in that photo, who set him up with that picture in the park. This, I see this as a monarchy takedown. What Meghan is doing, similar things. She's doing the same thing with Harry.
Let's leave Meghan for a moment.
Yeah.
If you said this is an attempt to destroy the British monarchy, you think?
Yes, it
By
is.
Whom?
Anyone. It could be a CIA thing. It's foreign government doing this.
But you have no evidence of this.
So,
or this is the paparazzi in New York, knowing a paedophile billionaire is hanging around with a member of the royal family, and inexplicably that member of the royal family goes to his house for 4 days with young girls hanging
Jeffrey
around.
Epstein had how many passports in his safe? He was found with 6 or 7 passports.
Sure. And the islands and the jets.
How do you think he's got all those passports?
I have no idea. I have no idea how he got his money. I mean, there's a great question to understand about how rich he was, but that's a question for Jeffrey Epstein. The question around Prince Andrew is: you are saying that he has been set up, he's been wrongfully implicated, and it's all very unfair.
And I only started looking into this 3.5 years ago, and it was an investigative journalist, independent one. She reached out to me on Instagram. And she said, I was in the courtroom at Ghislaine's trial. I don't believe these girls. There's something more to this. And her and I have become good friends now. Actually, we were together in Washington the night when the news came in about Virginia, which was like really a crazy experience because of all the people I was with. I was with Jessica. But going back to it, okay, do I think she killed herself? I think she probably did kill herself. You know, if she didn't kill herself, who did? You know, the family all want money. She was no use to the lawyers anymore. But, you know, as far as what's been going on, I know the FBI had reached out to her and knocked on her door recently, and they were supposed to be telling her about the recordings that we have on her. So I think it was a bunch of stuff, and obviously her husband, we don't know much about the husband. You know,
her father says that Giuffre showed him the picture that you say is doctored before it went in the mail.
Of course, it doesn't matter. Whatever she showed him was the doctored photo. It's not a real image. Like,
but if it weren't a real image, you would be able to show that very clearly.
The scale isn't
based
a real
on the tech
scale.
at the time.
Look at their heights. She's 5 foot. If she's 5'3", or even give her an extra inch and make her 5'4", with 3-inch heels on, she's still going to be like here on. Now, Ghislaine is rotting in jail right now for 20 years for basically statements that were not true.
By the girls that were alleging
no,
they were trafficked.
the only reason Ghislaine is in jail is because of Carolyn Adriano. Virginia didn't stand up in trial. Virginia, just to be really clear about this, Virginia is so not credible. The U.S. government did not pick her to stand up in the courtroom. She wasn't picked, although she was the poster girl for the whole Ghislaine Maxwell Epstein trial. She was not picked by the U.S. government to stand up there and say something because she would screw it up.
Do you you say you feel sorry for Maxwell? You clearly, I think it's fair to say, feel sorry for Andrew.
Yeah, because he lost his life. You know, this has been going on for...
Well, he's a member of the royal family and able to stay in all the palaces that he wishes and travel around.
Yeah, but he's a military guy. I think probably one of the worst things for him is like losing the military titles. He's the only one of the family that actually fought in a war.
It's an unbelievably poor decision by a member of the royal family to hang around with a paedophile billionaire.
I know, and I'm just...
Did you ever say anything to him? Did you say, what the hell are you doing? Get away from this guy.
You know, to me, I'm just so puzzled, you know, but like, it's like, why didn't he have just better people around him?
Or himself to make that decision.
Yeah.
Why wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know him. I don't.
Yeah.
I've never spoken a word to the man. Why isn't he going, this is probably should steer clear of this bloke?
Yeah, and I think he did think like that. But
he went anyway.
Why? But he's very stubborn, and I think that's probably like one of the, you know, really not a good quality because, you know, same thing, stubborn, wanted to do that interview. And I remember when he did that interview and I thought, well... And at this point, I really didn't know that much of the story. I was like, is he guilty? Is he not guilty? Like, I hadn't researched it at all. And I remember saying this in 2019. I was like, that photo does not look real to me. Okay. I've always said the same thing. I've never backtracked in anything that I've said to the story. But I said about him doing that interview, I was like, there is no way someone like him in his position would he do an interview if he's guilty. There's no way.
Well, hopefully he'll do. I mean, if he wants to, he could do more. It'd be great to talk to him about it. I don't think he's ever
going to do another interview. Do you know what I mean?
Two final thoughts. You talk about this potential conspiracy from foreign governments to bring down the monarchy.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Like, it's this stuff, you know, internal wars that are going on, like, you know, China and the US, whatever. If it's like whatever happened at Heathrow recently where suddenly there's the power cut and the thing, you know, we don't see war as it doesn't always have to be tanks and guns and warplanes.
This is grey zone warfare to bring down the monarchy.
This is a different kind of war, yeah.
So who else do you think
it's a
is
lot of these
implicated?
anti-monarchist groups that are
Well,
trying
hang on
to
a second.
turn us
That's
into
not my question.
Well, how do you think, if they want to turn us into a republic, what's the easiest way to do that? So you create all this negative press about the royal families, all these crazy young people.
Arguably, Victoria, they've done it to Prince Andrew has himself done it.
Yeah,
He chose to
no,
go.
no, no.
He has been responsible for the tarnishing of the reputation of Her Majesty the Queen and the monarchy as a whole. It's his fault.
Look, he really messed up for sure.
So the two questions I want to ask you finally is, who else is going to be implicated in your experience of hanging around with this crowd? Which other people are going to be implicated in this by being on the island, by being in the mansion, that is yet to come out?
I don't know, and this is the thing. Like, Ghislaine is in jail for doing what exactly on her own?
Well, trafficking.
But
young
trafficking
girls.
To who?
To the
Where are all the guys?
Well,
she's been in there for what, 4 years?
Well, the guys aren't going to throw themselves forward to say it was me.
It was me. Just come and arrest me now.
So, but you know of people who are going to be implicated in this.
Do I know? No, I know the people that were falsely accused by Virginia, but no, I don't know who's going to be implicated.
Do you ever? I mean, you say that you sort of picked this up relatively recently, 3 years or so ago.
Yeah, 3.5 years now.
Do you ever think you might be wrong? Do you ever think that you've got this wrong?
No, and having got actually into Kinnerton Street, do we want to see any of the pictures?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You
just to
show
kind
away,
of show you. Just to actually kind of really see the small area where so that is the original fake. And
so you went into the house, just because you went into the house where this photo was taken, because you posed as a buyer.
Yeah, and it took me 1.5 years to get in.
Yeah.
So
if you want to just show it to the camera in the middle, the red one there.
Yeah. It took a long time to get in there because the owners obviously to be honest, the owners actually need to realise, if I can prove that this never happened in their house, they'll be able to sell the house probably a lot more easily. And
you think you can? But that's not you. I'm confused because that's not what you're trying to prove. You're not trying to prove that it wasn't there. You're trying to prove that it was
never
there.
Happened.
Yeah, but in that place because it was so small.
I'm trying to prove that photo is not a real photo. Right. It's not a real image.
So just show that to the camera.
So this is
if you just turn it around,
this girl is very petite in that she didn't want her face in there, so I've cut it. But that's the original carpet of how it was, and there to there is 61 inches there, and this is 60 centimeters wide.
And if you show what you say is the doctored photo.
So, this is 60 centimeters wide, which is, there's the measuring tape. It's small. It's less than 2 laptops. Now he's supposed to have fitted. So you see the depth of it is not far. That's 60 centimeters. That's that little bit there. This wall here is 55 centimeters. So what I actually want to try and do is, if we can't get back into the house, is try to recreate it.
And your point is?
My point is...
Your point is they wouldn't be able to have fitted
so
in
this
there.
this is then... Okay, I will find you 1 second, and then that's Tim. So my friend is a photographer. He's been a photographer for 30 years.
Yeah.
We met on one of the first photo shoots I ever did. I bumped into him after I hadn't seen him in a few years.
Just flip it around for us.
So just to show you the height comparison. So it's a bit harder to see because this is all, the lines are all blurred. It's done on purpose like that, so it's harder to see, I'm sure. But his head to here, so he's 5'8". He said he's 5'9" when the hair is spiky and all of that. And he's actually he's shorter than Ghislaine, but Ghislaine is quite low down in that.
Do you know if any renovation work has happened on the house since?
No, the only thing that's changed is the paint.
Right. So there's
you
know that there's no structural work done on the house.
No structural work at all. So everything is as is.
Right.
And having spoken to Ghislaine's lawyer, the house was only ever all the same color.
Right.
It was like
Well,
a cream color.
You've
So even
shown what you say is the evidence that you
Yeah.
think show this wrong. Let's wait for those phone calls to emerge. You say
Mm-hmm.
you're going to publicise them,
yeah.
and let's speak again as and when that happens.
Yeah,
if that's all right.
Yeah, you see, basically, the guy who's on the phone calls, he said he's going to have to probably go into hiding
Right.
when they come out.
Right.
And we're not going to hiding, but it's like, it's a lot of pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having something like that.
But
and
if the truth is important to him, to you,
yeah.
you'll find a way of making those public, presumably.
Yeah, and look, things are better now than they were. A year ago, he was put on a gag order by a judge, and in the Southern District of Illinois. So I did an interview with him about 2 years ago, literally as he had tapping on his door. They were going to threaten to arrest him, because one of the other girls, because we started putting out her text messages on Instagram,